Awards, please welcome Juliette Bynoe-Sutherland.
That was a wow factor. PANCAP is pleased to join and strongly endorse this conference, and as a consequence, we made a strategic decision that we bring our PANCAP Awards, which are our annual celebration of excellence in the sphere of HIV and AIDS, to this HIV and AIDS conference. The PANCAP partnership in HIV and AIDS was established in 2001 by the CARICOM heads of government, who had the foresight to recognize that together, only together, could we go far in achieving certain objectives, that is, mitigating the impact of the epidemic within the region. PANCAP brings together countries of the French, Dutch, Spanish, and English-speaking Caribbean, along with regional civil society, UN agencies, international donor partners, people living with HIV and AIDS, and other vulnerable communities. The PANCAP Awards, Awards of Excellence, and Awards of Recognition are given annually to individuals who have made significant contributions to the Caribbean regional response. The objective of these awards are to give prominence to issues related to HIV and AIDS, to recognize and provide incentive to excellence in the field of HIV and AIDS, and to promote the work of PANCAP as the lead coordinating entity on HIV and AIDS within the region. The awards were inaugurated in 2010, and among the first recipients was your own Dr. Perry Gomez for his excellence in treatment and care. PANCAP as a collaboration works closely with our civil society partners, and we recognize that it was important to join in our efforts with the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition and use the occasion of our awards to also present an award that is caucused among regional civil society. In this regard, CVC presents annually a Juanita Altenberg Award of Excellence, which was inaugurated in 2009 by the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities. This award is given in memory of Miss Juanita Altenberg, Executive Director of the Max Linder Organization in Suriname, one of the region's leading organizations catering to vulnerable populations, particularly commercial sex workers. She has also served as founding co-chair of the board of the Caribbean Vulnerable Community Coalition. This annual award is conferred on community advocates in recognition of their outstanding contribution to the rights-based response in the Caribbean. Our first award of recognition goes to Dr. Bilali Camara. We are pleased to present this video montage of his work.
A PANCAP award is presented to a professional who made the journey from Mali in French West Africa to the Caribbean by way of France, the Netherlands, and Switzerland, and contributed beyond the call of duty to the health and development of this region. Within the fields of his experience that ranged from sexual and reproductive health to child malnutrition, from communicable diseases to the prevention of epidemics, Dr. Bilali Camara has distinguished himself by the contribution he has made to the strengthening of the Caribbean's capabilities in its response to HIV and AIDS. He has been an enduring asset. Dr. Kamara made the journey to this region highly qualified and with experience in policy formulation and the practice of public health. A graduate in clinical medicine with specializations in general and tropical epidemiology, Dr. Kamara also holds a master's in public health. As a young professional in Mali, he was involved in key public health issues such as an outbreak in cholera, a series of UNICEF-WHO projects on nutrition, and in the joint UNICEF-UNFPA dietary health surveys and the training of medical professionals in conducting those surveys. When in 1991 he was assigned by WHO as advisor on HIV and AIDS in Haiti, despite his previous experience, his mettle was to be truly tested. The prevalence of HIV in Haiti was the highest in the Caribbean. HIV and AIDS programs throughout the region were nascent. In every respect, this assignment no doubt provided the laboratory for what was later to be his role as head of the WHO Special Program in Sexually Transmitted Infections at the Caribbean Epidemiological Center, CAREC. His 10-year stint at CAREC was among the most valuable for the Pan-Caribbean Partnership Against HIV and AIDS, PANCAP, and hopefully as rewarding for him. He was one of the pioneers of the message that there needed to be an accelerated approach to HIV. He was one of the foundation members of the Technical Advisory Committee on HIV and AIDS that prepared the plan of action for a collective HIV regional response. He was one of the technical advisors that oversaw the birth of CRN Plus and continued to sponsor its survival. He actively participated in the endless debates that led to the eventual formulation of PANCAP. In this sense, Dr. Bilali Kamara could lay claim to paternity. Even so, it is a responsibility that he did not shirk. His subsequent attachment to UNAIDS allowed Dr. Kamara to contribute to the HIV and AIDS response in the region at another level of intervention. He continued to publish key progress reports on the Caribbean response to HIV using the 25 UNGAS indicators and Millennium Development Goals. He provided HIV leadership to all 10 UNAIDS co-sponsors on key issues under their mandate, presenting to the Caribbean Regional Technical Working Groups on measurement and evaluation and surveillance of HIV, to PANCAP, and to the University of the West Indies. When, in July 2011, Dr. Kamara was appointed UNAIDS Country Coordinator in Angola, Southern Africa, it was as if he had done his duty to the Caribbean and therefore was returning home. Tonight, we show our appreciation to this stalwart, whose valuable role in the establishment and progress of the PANCAP movement will always be treasured. The honor of this PANCAP award is therefore just one expression of our deep gratitude for the exemplary contribution of Dr. Bilali Kamara.
To present the award of recognition, the Honorable Minister of Health of Dominica, Julius Timothy, Chair of the PANCAP AGM, will present the award. To receive the award of recognition on behalf of Dr. Kamara, who was unable to come from Angola this afternoon, is Dr. Ernest Messiah, Director of the UNAIDS Regional Support Team. Dr. Messiah, would you join us on stage? We now present the first of the Awards of Excellence, and this award has been nominated by you, the broad members of the partnership. In this regard, the members have selected Miss Suzette Moses Burton of St. Martin. We are pleased to present a video montage of her work and efforts.
A PANCAP award is this evening presented to an outstanding activist and administrator in the cause of HIV and AIDS, whose talents spread across several fields of artistic endeavors: entrepreneur, playwright, poet, and producer. Miss Suzette Moses Burton, a born Trinidadian, now also a citizen of St. Martin, is truly a Caribbean woman. Fluent in French and Spanish with a working knowledge of the Dutch language, her works and influence are acknowledged throughout the Caribbean and beyond. She has been a speaker, chair, and presenter at regional and international conferences across the globe. Her involvement in the field of HIV and AIDS education and awareness, and in care and support for people living with HIV and AIDS, began long before she was diagnosed as HIV positive in 1993. But diagnosis stimulated her resolve and commitment to become a champion for change. An early member of CRN+, she acceded to the chair of its board in the first elections of that organization in 1996 and served for 3 terms. In 2002, she moved seamlessly from her private business, S2 Creations, a graphic design studio and sign shop, into the position of Program Manager for HIV and AIDS in St. Martin. In addition, Ms. Moses Burton has been a member of the Caribbean Coalition of National AIDS Program Coordinators, CCNAPC, from its embryonic stage in 2000. She served on its board for 4 terms in various roles as Chairman, Vice Chairman, and representative of the Dutch-speaking territories of the Caribbean. She co-founded the PLWHA group in St. Martin called Helping Ourselves in a Positive Environment, HOPE. She is currently the Secretary of the St. Martin AIDS Foundation and has organized local observances of the International AIDS Candlelight Memorial since 1999. One of the highlights of her work is the RED Campaign, a public-private sector partnership initiated in 2008. The initiative involves major companies in St. Martin, all working together to increase the awareness and education among their employees and staff. This venture has been such an enormous success that it has been exported to Curaçao, and PANCAP has expressed an interest in documenting it as a best practice. But Ms. Moses Burton does not rest on her laurels. Indeed, they expand to the many leadership and executive roles she performs regionally and internationally. These include alternate member of PANCAP's executive board, member of the planning and scholarship committees for the 2011 Caribbean HIV Conference, co-chair of the Leadership and Accountability Program Committee, and member of the Conference Coordinating Committee for the 2012 International AIDS Conference. Along the way, she has also served in many regional initiatives, including the project called Strengthening the Institutional Response to HIV and AIDS in the Caribbean, Technical Core Review Team for the development of a regional funding proposal to the Global Fund, Cultural Program Working Group responsible for organizing the cultural program for both the 17th and 18th International AIDS Conferences in Mexico and Vienna in 2008 and 2010 respectively. In 2010, she was the coordinator of the Local Planning Committee for the 10th Annual General Meeting of PANCAP, a well-organized and successful event at which the PANCAP Award was inaugurated. As if these wide-ranging pursuits were not sufficient to exhaust the energies of a lesser mortal, much less one that comes in such a small package, Ms. Moses Burton continues to find the spirit to indulge her creative sensibilities. She has already co-written and co-produced 2 theatrical plays, In the Company of Women, Girls, HIV and AIDS, and In the Company of Men, Boys and HIV and AIDS. Now, her most ambitious endeavor is in the making. It is the adaptation of the Broadway hit Rent, to be performed by an amateur cast of St. Martin performers, to be premiered on World AIDS Day 2011. Despite these stellar achievements, Ms. Moses Burton identifies her greatest achievement to date as, and I quote, single-handedly and successfully raising her 24-year-old daughter, who is now completing her studies in Trinidad and Tobago, end quote. For all of these achievements, we therefore salute this mother, mentor, and motivator, this advocate, administrator, and artist. We honor her efficiency and effectiveness in the fight against the spread of HIV and AIDS, her competence and compassion as she champions the cause of those affected and infected. Ladies and gentlemen, Suzette Moses Burton.
Present the Award of Excellence, the Prime Minister of St. Martin, the Honorable Sarah Westcott Williams. The second Award of Excellence, just a moment, goes to the late Dr. Robert Peter Carr. Robert is also the recipient of the Juanita Altenberg Award. Robert remains in our hearts forever, and we're pleased to present a montage that only captures, very briefly, a small component of his life's work.
PANCAP pays tribute to and honors a true Caribbean son who made it his life's work to advocate for and on behalf of some of the most vulnerable populations in the Caribbean region. Described by many as a human rights soldier, Dr. Robert P. Carr made it his duty to fight for the acceptance of each individual based on the principles of humanity. Trinidadian by birth, Dr. Carr was also a citizen of Jamaica, where he earned his master's in social work in 2001 after studying at several American universities. It was at the University of the West Indies Mona campus where he first embraced his passion for advocating on behalf of those marginalized by society. his work was never based or biased by gender, sexuality, or moral upbringings. Instead, his interest was first and foremost the protection of human rights. It was this passion and interest in fighting for those whose rights had been violated that led him to the Jamaica AIDS Support for Life in 2002, where he would spread his message about inequality and voice his concerns about the injustices faced by those living with and affected by HIV and AIDS. As Director of Targeted Interventions and then Executive Director of Jamaica AIDS Support, he worked assiduously to raise the awareness of the tireless struggles of those who had been ostracized by society for either living with HIV or affected by the virus. He took his messages across regional and international borders and demanded that there be a greater understanding of the epidemic in the Caribbean region. Dr. Carr also ventured into uncharted waters when he spoke freely and unapologetically about issues like sex work, men who have sex with men, and drug use. Dr. Carr's reputation as an activist grew as his advocacy efforts increased in size and scope. He developed many mechanisms in the region to help combat the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS, but one of his major achievements was building the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition, the CVC. In 2004, Dr. Carr's vision of a Caribbean free of discrimination led him to meet with fellow activists from around the region to talk about ways in which they could help bridge the gap in the HIV and AIDS response. This was the stepping stone that Dr. Carr needed. With support from fellow activists, and after much lobbying with international agencies like the United Nations Development Programme and UNAIDS, the CVC became a reality in 2005. Today, the CVC stands as one of the Caribbean's leading agencies helping and advocating for most at-risk populations. Dr. Carr also contributed to many regional and international advisory boards and scholarly bodies. He was also the author and co-author of many academic and scientific publications that were well received by many at regional and international fora. With his zeal for a world of justice and equality, Dr. Carr was invited to be the featured speaker and presenter at many distinguished meetings around the globe. Prior to his untimely passing, Dr. Carr was serving as Director of Policy and Advocacy with the International Council of AIDS Service Organizations, a position he took up in 2009 when he moved to Canada. We remember and celebrate the life of Dr. Carr, a man who served and respected each and every one with dignity, a man who fought for equality for everyone, no matter their HIV status, gender, or sexual orientation. It is therefore for making the world a more just and equal place that we pay tribute to Dr. Robert P. Carr.
Honorable Prime Minister of St. Martin, would you please do us the honor of presenting the award to Dr. Robert Carr's father, Dr. Peter Carr. I now invite Patricia Figueroa to the stage. Patricia is the Regional Coordinator of the Caribbean Treatment Action Group, and she will present awards on behalf of the International Treatment Preparedness Coalition, their awards for outstanding service within the Caribbean by organizations. Welcome, Patty.